Species.
This is Steve from Origin of Species. Last year, during the recording of an episode, Cold Turkey and Gravy Train, I gave an impromptu speech about the movie Roadhouse starring Patrick Swayze. I extolled the many virtues of this fine film, concluding with the idea that Roadhouse should be the official movie of Thanksgiving. Scott took the entirety of the speech, and other rantings and discussions about Roadhouse, and made a special episode to be released on Thanksgiving Day. On November 22nd, 2018, we released episode 17 of Origin of Species, entitled Roadhouse, the official movie of Thanksgiving. To date, this episode is the least listened to episode of any podcast in the Species family of shows. Some might take this as a sign to let go of this idea. After all, this is a podcast about the history of words and idioms, not about movies with Sam Elliott, falling polar bears, and throat ripping. However, Scott and I took this initial failure as a challenge, as we believe that Roadhouse can help unite this country during the Thanksgiving holiday. Instead of abandoning our idea, we decided to record a sequel episode with multiple special guests. Guests of different genders, careers, and hepatitises. Origin of Species presents our Thanksgiving gift to you, the sequel to Roadhouse, the official movie of Thanksgiving.
All right, before we get started, I need to set this episode up a little bit more. As Steve said, we have decided to double down on our efforts to spread this idea that Roadhouse should be the official movie of Thanksgiving. So you're going to hear a lot of voices in this episode, 7 to be exact. The first section will just be Steve, myself, and our friend Lauren. And Lauren recently just watched Roadhouse for the very first time, and I told her I was jealous because I wish I could go back and see it for the first time again. So, as you might expect, she was a little confused. So we're going to help her out. She had some questions that we're going to try to answer, and we are also going to just discuss some of her observations. I will be back to introduce other guests and sort of take you along this journey with us. We had a really fun night, and I think we've put together an enjoyable episode for you. So, with no further delay, here is our second annual Roadhouse, the official movie of Thanksgiving episode. Enjoy.
So Lauren, thank you very much for joining us today.
Happy to be here.
Good. Well, we're talking Roadhouse. We should all be thankful for that. So, you are someone who has just watched Roadhouse for the first time, and I have a feeling you're like someone that's like newly converted. So we caught you earlier on the street talking to people before you came in today, and just witnessing them about Roadhouse. And thank you for that. It's good to get the word out.
She could have been warning people. I don't know if she actually likes it.
I read some of her tracks. They were very pro Roadhouse. So
pro
Lauren,
Dalton.
If you would just give us just your initial, you've watched Roadhouse, just kind of thoughts.
Okay, so I watched it for the first time about 2 weeks ago, and then watched it again for the second time a few days later, per Scott's suggestion.
Very good suggestion.
That it's a lot to take in at once.
It is.
And that you need to really just take it in and then give it a second watch. So I did.
I concur.
My husband was very excited that I was watching it, and he kept whispering at me, foreshadowing. Every time they would foreshadow something, I'm like, thanks, like I don't know what that is. And I realized that the scene that I thought I remembered from this movie was not at all in this movie. And I think I was confusing him in The Outsiders.
Oh, okay.
Well,
with his character.
Swayze role.
Yeah. So I was waiting for the scene of him shirtless in these really tight black pants that never came along. Although there was naked Swayze butt later, so that
I was going to
good.
say, you did get shirtless Swayze with, like, jeans on at some point, right? I'm trying to think. He didn't have the black pants.
I don't think he ever wears jeans.
No.
What does he wear?
he kind of goes.
Slacks.
He's either like
he's wearing the pleated slacks.
Yeah,
as was popular at the time.
But he kind of goes from that to like au naturel Swayze. There's not a lot
you
of
do
in
see
between.
hold on. Can I do my impression of what's the lady's name that catches him? She's bringing him bagels.
Yeah,
and here's my
Kate Woolite.
Yeah, here's my impression of her bringing bagels when the towel comes off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
she does the gasp of, that's Patrick Swayze's butt. I think that was real. That wasn't acting.
Yeah, I don't think she had to prepare for that. I think that was a natural reaction.
So that was an exciting scene for me because that's when I realized who she was. And she played Luke's crazy sister on The Gilmore Girls, which is a favorite show of mine.
High five me. That's who I have never
high-fiving.
Put that together. I love Gilmore Girls. I've watched and rewatched it. And of course, they're in Escaro.
Yes.
Yes, we get that because it's a good show.
Named her daughter Dula.
Dula, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, I've never felt
anyway,
so alone.
that's for another podcast.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
that's for the Steve Feels Left Out podcast.
See, I knew Lauren would bring some new stuff to the table. So you're right, she plays we should know the name of that character, but whatever, who cares? She's the
after watching it twice, I don't really remember anyone's names. So.
Right.
Yeah.
His name is Dalton.
I did know that one.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And Wade Garrett, because a young Sam Elliott is very attractive.
So speaking of a young
Sam.
No, but speaking of, this is my one Wade Garrett fact. Did you know that he's playing like the father figure to Swayze?
Mm-hmm.
But when Swayze filmed this, he was I think 37 and Wade Garrett was only 43.
Right.
He was only 43.
So Wade Garrett
still looks kind of old.
Yeah.
I know, but because he's got that salt and pepper.
But Sam Elliott, I believe, was born with a full mustache.
Yes.
Like, I expect to see a baby picture of Sam Elliott. Like, he's got a mustache and, like, a 3-day shadow, like, going on at the same time. 5 o'clock shadow.
Yeah.
Sorry, for me, it's a 3-day shadow. For him, it would be 5 o'clock shadow.
Yeah. But he's just got that gravitas that, he was probably in second grade, like, saying, well, didn't do my homework. And they were like, it's okay, Sammy, sit down. You're exempt. So, okay, what else did you think about it? And you said you might have some burning questions?
Okay, so I did enjoy it. Of course, because I kind of knew what to expect going into it. I kind of knew it was, going to be a little bit dramatic, a little bit exaggerated, and I knew people loved it, and loved it not because it was a cinematic masterpiece.
Mm-hmm.
How dare you?
I'm sorry. But I did really enjoy it. I thought it was interesting. And then when I was talking to my friend Cotter about it after I watched it, she pointed out to me that it was billed at the time as like a legit action film.
Oh, yeah.
Well, because it is a legit action film.
So I was thinking it was more like a drama. I mean, yes, there is action in it, but I didn't realize it was supposed to be billed as like a legit action movie.
I think it's all kidding aside. I think it's fair to say that its legacy is, while wonderful, not what was intended when they initially put it out.
But what else would it be billed as? It had to be billed as an action film. It's not going to be like, Tonight on Hallmark.
Yeah, I guess that's true. But it wasn't, I guess the way it's appreciated now is not I mean, there are other movies like that.
Well, it's
like Cobra with Stallone.
It's a little bit tough to categorize, but I guess if you had to pick a slot for it, it would probably be action. But
it's like Dolomite. It's like Dolomite. When he did it, it was straight ahead, supposed to just be an action movie, right? With love story and everything else. Yeah. And then it came out and it, again, was very successful, but...
It's like its own dimension. It's a new color.
Yeah, it's a new thing. I think Roadhouse is that same way. So, anything in the initial viewing of it that you found confusing, or maybe some of your favorite scenes?
So there just wasn't a lot of character development or a lot of backstory. So you knew he ripped out somebody's throat, but then Wade Garrett just randomly throws it in, like, she didn't tell you she was married, like, you didn't know, and it was self-defense, and, like, that was supposed to, like, explain his whole deal, like, that his whole background, his angst about things, that was supposed to be a huge part of who he is, and then it kind of felt like a throwaway line.
But I felt like, as a man watching that told me everything I needed to know.
I will agree.
Like, what else were you going to do? There's no other option. Throat rip. That is just what you have to do. But good.
Is the throat rip physically possible? Is that
Now, that is a tremendous question. And I'm
going to say no.
I'm going to say no.
There's no way. The closest thing I'm trying to think of is the 5-finger death punch, or the thing from Kill Bill, where he can like grab a guy's heart out. I don't think any of this is real.
That's much more plausible.
I think that's more plausible than the throat rip. But I like that he's painted into a corner to where he has no choice. Yeah. He doesn't want to do it.
I'm not going to smack his gun away. I'm not going to hit him in the nose. I'm not going to kick him in the leg. One option, no more throat.
By the way, I feel like I need to point out to anyone listening right now that anything you're hearing in the background, of course, now it stops. That is Roadhouse in the background. So
it's probably
if it sounds
a lot of glass breaking.
It sounds like a bar fight and a lot of glass breaking. You're hearing. There's a screening going on right now of Roadhouse.
So I agree with you. I don't think the throat rip is possible.
No.
But something I watched, and I actually did like prepare for this episode by watching it over the last 2 nights, is that there's an early fight where Brad Wesley's men come to the Roadhouse bar, come to the Double Deuce, and there's a fight in the parking lot, and someone throws a punch. The gentleman throws a punch with an open palm with his fingers sticking out.
Oh, you're right.
That I never noticed before, that maybe that was a lead up to the throat, in the Roadhouse universe, that throat ripping is on the table.
Right.
As a move during a fight that, well, if I couldn't punch him in the nose, I'm going to tear his throat out.
That's a good point, because you're right. I do remember that scene, and he's just like,
yeah,
but with the fingers out. So
yeah, so
it's almost like you do with a kid. I'm gonna get your nose. It's kind of like that move, but it's
that's what Swayze did with his kids. Oh, I got your throat. I'm throwing it in the lake.
Whoops. Yeah.
So that is a very good point. I'm fairly certain that's not possible, and I would love though to think of a self-defense class that you would take. They're going through the list of things to do when confronted in a parking lot of, hit them in the nose, kick them in the leg, tear their throat out. That's just on the table. If the gun shows up, there's only one thing. Throat. You go right for the throat.
I mean, it seems like a pretty sweet, like, kung fu move.
It seems
like
wonderful.
Something out of, like, one of those old awesome kung fu movies.
I wish that was on the table for things, but unfortunately, I think that's one of the things, the suspension of disbelief. But
if anybody deserved to have his throat pulled out, it was that guy.
It was for sure that
guy.
Jimmy. When he first shows up on the scene, you just look at him and you're like, oh, that's the bad guy. Somebody should rip his throat out.
Does anyone else think he looks like Billy Ray Cyrus?
Oh, good call.
It is.
He does look
I couldn't remember his name, and then when I would like talk about him to my friend after I watched the movie, I was like, oh, is the Billy Ray Cyrus guy.
Can I tell you something shameful that my daughter, after it's been popular, has heard about? Is it Old Country Road?
Old Town Road?
Old Town Road. And that my beautiful daughter at age of 10 has been besmirched by Billy Ray Cyrus. And I don't want to explain it to her. I just tell her, it's like, that's not going to be played.
Yeah, he was supposed to go away, but I think the only reason he's still around is because of his daughter, who's...
No, but this is all on him. I mean, even if she wasn't around.
But no, I think he maybe would have been out of the zeitgeist at this point if it wasn't
it's like a combination of an STD and a cicada. Like it goes away for a while,
right,
and then reemerges
every
17 years.
Yeah.
Is it 17 really?
I don't know. I think I just made that up. Maybe it's 16. It's a long time.
You said it with confidence.
I'm going with 17.
Yeah, that's 17. How I get people to believe me at work.
That's how it works in life. That's what the news does too. They just I'm taking a turn to the political, but just keep saying it over and over with confidence, and it'll be true. But yeah. Oh, I hear the chopper. I know what scene's
Brad
going.
Wesley's chopper.
He just does that just to piss me off. The old guy. Let's talk about.
Okay, I still have more questions.
Oh, please.
Okay, good.
Okay. Why is he just in his, like, what was it, like a Ford Mustang or something? Just like, woo, back and forth, just leisurely driving through both lanes.
Yeah.
Shaboom, shaboom.
Shaboom, shaboom. Because he can. I mean, would be my answer.
I think that's the main reason. And I think that was, as I was rewatching that, trying to analyze that scene, like what it's trying to show.
It's a power move.
It is. It's like walking into a meeting ahead of time and like doing like the gorilla pose. I think. I mean, that is a great question, and I don't think there's a good answer. It's not well thought out. But Brad Wesley, who brought J.C. Penney to Jasper, you can ask anybody. Yeah, because of him. Decides the way to exert himself is to drive down the middle of the road, listening to a song from the 50s, and poorly swerving. But I I don't know. One of the wonderful things about Roadhouse is someone wrote all that down, printed it out, and showed it to other people, and it still showed up. So I think, who knows what the original was, but that was like an idea someone had. Like, you know what? Brad Wesley's going to have an ascot. He's going to lift in a song from the 50s and drive down the middle of the road and swerve. And that's how we show he's a guy that you don't want to mess with.
I do think that we should... Is the pizza here?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Pizza's here. We're going to take a pause. Okay. All right. So obviously the pizza came and we took a break, ate some pizza, watched more Roadhouse, had a couple beverages, came back, this time with our good friends Eric Neff and Micah Lamont. Lauren is still with us, and of course Steve. I'm still hanging around because of course I can't stay away when we're talking Roadhouse. So I'll check back in with you in a little bit. Please enjoy this conversation. And by the way, Eric does not have hepatitis. He does have a lip ring, and I think that's fair game to be made fun of. But I just want to say that for the record. All right, back to Roadhouse. All right, so I'm gonna step out. Micah is gonna come take my place, and then we're gonna talk about the scene we just watched, where Swayze rolls out of bed to have some bagels.
No,
with his.
You got to go back. You got to go back.
Okay, so
you
we're gonna
go
go
back to where he's reading shirtless.
Dude, and by the way, I said he was shirtless with jeans, and they tried to tell me no, he doesn't wear jeans in this whole show. In the whole movie, he just wears like pleated slacks.
No.
I'm like, yeah, he wears pleated slacks.
He wears 501s.
So Lauren, what are some other questions you have after watching Roadhouse for the first time?
Okay, is Red the guy that owns like the auto parts?
Yeah, he is.
Okay. Was there a picture of Doc in his store? Is that like his niece or something?
That is his niece.
Okay, did they explain that or did I totally miss that?
At some point they do.
Okay.
They don't explain it as much as toss out a line stating that, because I've watched it before and I thought that the place where Dalton stays, that Doc was his niece, which made it more awkward as other things develop with the relationship between Dalton and Doc. Like, it's a very small town. Everyone's very interrelated.
Jasper.
And as we will probably discuss later, the police are not much of a presence until the very end of the movie.
Do we know if Jasper is a real city?
I just actually picked up that it was Jasper the last time I watched it.
Ooh.
Let's look it up.
Just look that up.
Don't eat the big white mint. Yeah.
Right. But Jasper is apparently a place that, I understand that things happen, maybe after dark in a bar like the Double Deuce. But apparently in Jasper on a Saturday afternoon, you can take a Bigfoot truck, which the gentleman, one of Brad Wesley's minions, whose name is Gary.
Ooh.
That is his tough guy name is Gary.
The Richard Marx looking guy?
I believe there's several, but his name is Gary.
Oh,
they didn't call him like, Butch or, Eye Patch or anything.
Yeah, there's some bizarre power dynamics going on in Jasper.
There's a lot of stuff, but Gary, please.
Jasper is a real place, and the demographics of Jasper.
2,300 probably.
No, between 1980 and 1990. In 1980, there were 1,012 people. In 1990, there were 994 people.
Probably because Brad Wesley had the difference run over by a Bigfoot truck by Gary.
Right, but it's kind of funny that you have a thriving nightclub with hundreds of people in a town that's only got, at best, 1,000 people.
Right, and a JCPenney that we hear about but don't see. So
JCPenney that's on the way.
That's a good point there. So I decided to document the other night as I watched it the actual businesses in Jasper. So what I noted, there's a junkyard where Dalton buys his car.
About the junkyard, the photo mart.
Don't get ahead of me. Red's Auto Parts store, which is set on fire.
Yeah.
Later. In the strip mall, as he drives down the street, you can see a couple different. There's strip malls. One, there was a store called Boats that I picked up on.
Right to the point.
Yeah, Boats.
Believe it or not, it's actually a secondhand
Is it a secondhand boat store?
Tupperware store.
Yeah. And there's the car. What's the official name of the place you buy cars?
The dealership?
Car dealership. Thank you. Where
you got insurance, right? Yeah, that guy.
You know.
Yeah.
You know I have insurance. I actually ran into Eric's car the last time he was here.
Oh, yeah. Let's talk. Yeah.
We can talk about that later.
No.
On a Saturday, you can drive a Bigfoot truck. First of all, Gary drives the whole movie. Like, he's going place to place. Like, what car are we going to take? The Honda? No, take the Bigfoot.
Unchecked aggression.
Yeah. And then drives through a whole auto dealership on a Saturday in front of many, many people.
And they're cheering.
There is a large section of people cheering, and I've noticed it was Brad Wesley's minions and the hot ladies that hung out with him that they threw in the pool earlier.
Yes, yes.
And then a bunch of other people who maybe all work at boats and decided to come over.
Can we go back and you show me that part where there's a place called Boats?
We'll do that. Boats.
That's tight.
Can you imagine someone's just got out of business school? It's like, where are you going? Are you going to work for Procter & Gamble? Owens & Minor? You know, a Fortune 500, Fortune 100.
You're at a cocktail party. You're like, where do you work? Like, I work at Boats in Jasper, Missouri.
Boats. Tangented. So what was your original question?
Okay.
Was Red?
Where do you?
Oh yeah, so Doc is Red's niece.
Correct.
Okay, my other question is when Dalton pulls up and is driving his Mercedes and he throws his keys to that guy and he's like, "Here, you can have it," but then like later he takes his car back. Did he give it to the guy? Did the guy understand he was supposed to be housing it? How did he get his car
the
back?
BMW, right?
No, it's a Mercedes.
It's a Mercedes.
That is a tremendous question because he gives it to the guy. But that's
What am I, a valet?
Yeah.
Oh.
That's a very accurate representation. And that gentleman is also in my new favorite movie trailer.
He's in Weird Science, too.
He is. He's the gentleman that Anthony Michael Hall.
Give me the keys.
That guy.
Yeah. And he's also in the trailer for my new favorite trailer to watch. I recommend stop what you're doing right now and find the trailer for Action Jackson starring Carl Weathers. Which is, we should watch that as a warm-up. Again, that gentleman's in there saying yabba dabba doo, except in that voice.
Okay.
Carl Weathers is in The Mandalorian, too.
I know. I'm very excited. I got to show that to my daughter. I was like, the guy, Action Jackson, is still with us.
Is she in Star Wars?
She's begrudgingly into Star Wars, but she's into Action Jackson, which is a great trailer. If you saw the trailer, which also has Craig T. Nelson doing karate.
From Coach?
Yeah.
And The Devil's Advocate?
In The Incredibles. He's in Devil's Advocate?
Yeah, he's the guy who committed the murder.
Oh.
He's the one that they, like, the whole big case was... That's Keanu Reeves.
Your question, by the way, has just opened so many doors. So your original question was, is Doc Red's niece? Mm-hmm. And yes. And you had a second question from that.
Wait a minute, who's... Oh, the Doc, the lady.
Oh, no, not related to that.
What's the farm owner guy's name?
Emmett.
Okay.
Who's portrayed by, in quotes, Sunshine Parker. Not Sunshine Parker. Quote, Sunshine, end quote, Parker. Look it up on IMDb right now. Do it.
Okay.
Where's your hepatitis-ridden phone? Get it out and look it up.
Yeah, Happy D.
What is with the hepatitis?
What is with the quotes around Sunshine Parker's name? That, to me, is very...
It's the one with actual hepatitis, and I don't get hepatitis by proxy.
Is that where you got it from?
Yeah.
No, I don't have hepatitis, man.
Are you sure?
He's not. We're gonna take him to the mall later. We're gonna walk around Regency.
New girl thinks I have hepatitis.
No, I'm just saying you have to get tested for that, and you can pick it up at any time, or
what
just
makes
always
you think I
prevent it
have
first.
hepatitis?
You have to...
Probably your.
Do you think any of these other people have hepatitis?
I don't know. I had to get vaccinated for it before I went away to college. That was one of the requirements.
I was going to say, who looks like they have the hepatitis the most? And, like, don't answer that because I know I do.
Was there a question?
Well, I have another one.
Please.
Why does Dalton carry around his medical records? What is the...
Saves time.
But...
Saves time. Come on.
Because he knows he's going to get in a fight. He knows he's going to have to see the local doctor after a kerfuffle with the local hooligans. And
his job is to go into battle every night. He knows he's going to get hurt.
Know your enemy.
Okay.
Why do you need past medical records to be treated for current wounds? He's getting stitched up and maybe a few broken fingers here and there. Why does he need...
Well, you also brought the other place of employment in Jasper, which is the hospital, which should be supplied daily. Very symbiotic relationship with the Double Deuce based on things that happen.
Yeah.
I think he carries it around because of his lifestyle. And what was it you guys said? You both yelled it.
Saves time.
Saves time.
Also, a key thing is, in his medical records, he keeps his resume.
And his transcript for college.
Which I assumed it was his resume, which stated where he went to college.
Columbia.
Which I think is
NYU.
Probably the most realistic thing of the movie. That a guy that was a bouncer has his resume on him, but also has a philosophy degree.
From NYU.
Which logically led to a career of being a bouncer after he couldn't get a real job.
He's an intellectual. You saw him reading a book shirtless.
He did. Well,
I think Dalton's still looking for a way out.
I think the jury's still out on whether you're an intellectual reading something shirtless.
That's his way to get offered a job to be a loan officer somewhere, is pretty much by keeping his resume.
As a career restaurant guy, you're always looking for an out.
Yeah. And you also know how Micah shared with me earlier that part of his job, before he was able to publish his book, The Imbible, which is available on Amazon,
nice.
He had to tear someone's throat out before he graduated.
I did.
Lost a doctor girlfriend in the process.
Yeah, he did. She was not happy after.
But got back together in the end, and just in time for some butt naked diving at the last the end credits.
No, I think personally that's how every movie should end. So if I can jump back in, I have confirmed Legends of the Fall. The book that Patrick Swayze is reading is Legends of the Fall with...
Oh, he was reading Legends of the Fall
Sexy
then?
Brad Pitt. Who else was in that movie?
That just makes him even more sexy.
I know.
They probably cast Brad Pitt because they saw that in
It
Roadhouse.
Could be. That could be a connection to that.
That's a pretty deep thread.
But I think we need to go back to the original reason why we got back in this room was to discuss the tight brekkie that Homegirl brought while Dalton's sleeping butt naked in a Santa Fe blanket.
Every word you said makes no sense. What did you just say?
I got it.
Okay.
Yeah,
I heard noise. Okay.
No, we were watching Roadhouse hard.
How else do you watch it?
So I think the game plan is we're gonna watch a little Roadhouse,
okay,
and then comment on it. So
no, Dalton
puts a scene.
Yeah, Dalton puts in a D's shift, and then he's tired. He's sleeping in.
Right.
Homegirl brings a tight brekkie and a
Bagels.
Brown bag.
Yeah.
Is this a Young Gravy song being spoken out loud in front of me?
He calls breakfast brekkie.
Oh, okay.
So go ahead. Sorry, he didn't know what you were talking about.
Yeah,
he knows about Young Gravy.
I know.
So she brings in bagels.
We're assuming it. We're assuming it's bagels.
I'm pretty sure it was bagels.
Would we expect a town that only has a store of boats to have a bagel shop?
Well, maybe.
What would it be?
We've added a new
bagels.
We've added a new store, so we know now there's a place to get bagels. Maybe in the strip.
Where are the bagels coming? Who saw a bagel anywhere?
Well, what's in the brown bag? What's in the bag?
What's in the bag?
What's in the bag?
They show him eating a breakfast sandwich and then saying something about how terrible it is, but I don't think it's a bagel. I think it's on a bun.
We need to go back and look.
Right, so
maybe he got it at Boats. Maybe Boats makes breakfast.
No,
which I would think is probably not.
The best buns that we saw were when he got out of bed and put on those 501s.
Accurate.
Buns akimbo.
Yeah.
It was Neff.
I think Buns Akimbo is the reason we got back in this
That's
room.
the name of the store in the strip mall next to Boats.
All right, so we're back after watching some more Roadhouse. We've got the whole crew here. Eric, Lauren, Steve, and Micah. So where do we want to start? Do we have more questions, or do we start talking about what we just watched?
Questions have been a very good way to guide us through this journey.
Lauren, you're on.
Okay, so when he's in the hospital getting his stitches, and she's like, you like pain, don't you? And he said, pain don't hurt. I feel like as someone that has been very eloquent throughout this movie to say pain don't hurt.
He's being coy.
I don't like it. It doesn't fit.
If I may.
Yes.
I think that is very eloquent. Yeah. I think he's saying that pain is information, and that like he gets it. He understands that he needs to go to the doctor, and that's where he is, and that's what he's doing. So,
Lauren, I don't want to speak for you, but are you saying the grammar is poor?
Yes, the grammar.
Yeah.
The grammar is poor.
Pain do not hurt.
I would think he would have like a.
I think he's being
snappier-
cutesy.
but he's also in Jasper, Missouri, so I think he's like speaking the common tongue. Like,
But kind of condescendingly, which is
But
tight.
he's talking to a doctor.
No,
But she's
that's his
also
actual expression, dude.
He's
not-
also
a
a
hot
doctor
doctor.
in
He
Jasper,
says it with
Missouri.
a twinkle. He says it with a twinkle, which means that he is being ironic with like the whole bad grammar.
Do you think that if he said pain doesn't hurt, would we still be talking about it to this day?
No.
If he said pain doesn't hurt, she'd be like, "The fuck are you talking about?"
That's good point.
She'd be like, "I'm a medical doctor." He's saying pain don't hurt. He's flirting.
and
Don't you guys know how to
Yeah,
flirt?
clearly he's
Clearly
using
not.
like an idiom to kind of convey meaning and,
Well, it's kind of like in a rock song where someone says ain't or says don't inappropriately against grammar rules to be cool. It's kind of like, look how cool I am. I said ain't. I said
Well,
don't.
or it just works better because if you say, I ain't too proud to beg,
Mhm.
how would that work? I am not too proud to beg doesn't work. So
Yeah.
I don't
it
think
works.
there's too much to deconstruct here. I think Patrick Swayze is doing exactly what he should have been doing, which is he's got his NYU degree in philosophy.
Mhm.
He's got his Mercedes-Benz, which he doesn't even want people to know about. He keeps it covered.
After he mysteriously got it back. from
And then
the
she
hobo.
asked him a question. She's like, "Do you like pain, Dalton?" And he's like, "Pain don't hurt."
Yeah.
He's got his arm up, ready for staples with no local. He's ready
No,
to party with her.
That was to show his abs.
He
That's
was
a good
yes.
move.
He's
Yeah.
letting her know after you staple me, we're getting coffee. Is that what he said?
it is weird though because he's not like a braggart at all, right? Because the
braggart.
whole movie has shown that he's very
Understated.
understated. So him not taking the anesthetic,
Mm.
he's not trying to show off.
Yeah.
It's
kinda
part of the way he lives
It's
his
his
life.
MO. He's
Yeah.
like, I don't need anesthetic. And
Sometimes not showing off is
Yeah.
showing off.
and there's not room in these jeans for underpants.
And that's okay. You can show off.
Boxer
Doesn't matter.
shorts are not fitting in these jeans.
Hey, did we determine if it was a bagel or some other kind of breakfast
We didn't
sando?
watch closely to the sandwich eating.
I did. There's a box within the bag. There's a rectangle shape within the bag.
So it's mythology.
It is.
Okay.
There's nothing in
We'll
the bag.
never know. Oh, there's nothing in there.
No, I distracted them with a question that would be inappropriate for this podcast, so we were not paying attention to the breakfast sandwich.
Oh,
Okay.
well, okay, I can cut it. What was the question? About butt cheeks?
No, it was about wearing thick, stiff 80s denim with no underwear and how that would probably be very uncomfortable.
No, it's not.
Okay, but you're wearing today's jeans with
Don't-
like
you
spandex.
don't
Don't say
answer.
today's jeans like it's a disease.
That sounds like that would be in the Lynn Haven Mall.
Yeah.
Today's
That's like
jeans.
today's sponge.
Hey, Mom, do you need a new pair of jeans this fall? We have today's jeans.
Ew.
Come see our model, Eric. He does not have hepatitis. Yet.
By the way, if you looked out the kitchen window of the house I grew up in, you could see Leggett's at Lynn Haven Mall.
Leggings!
Oh,
gross.
dude, did you see what was it? What was the other stores back then? Upton's, was that a store?
Upton's.
Just
Just
what
what
you're
you're looking
Dude.
for.
Upton's.
JCPenney, Leggett's. What did Leggett's
Leggett.
become?
Belk.
Belk?
Belk. Oh,
And then
I got
I-
a Belk story.
Then did it become Dillard's or is it still Belk?
Dillard's is
Depends on
highbrow.
what area of the country you're in.
Belk,
It's like,
Belk
it's
is
like
a Virginia thing. I think.
Hardee's versus
Carl's
Carl's
Jr.
Jr. Belk or dude Leggett. Oh,
I can't believe someone brought that up. I haven't thought about that
I
for
know.
25 years.
All right. Anyway, so back to Roadhouse. What other scenes did we miss? All right. So there was an epic fight.
I need to jump in. We did
Please.
confirm
I'm just trying to move on.
that one of the businesses is
Boats.
Boats.
We had a big cheer come up when boats showed up.
But I mean, maybe we didn't see the sign to the left of boats. Like maybe it was like
Hose.
Reds, automotives, and it's like cars, vans, boats.
Okay, then let's recap what we just
Okay.
saw.
Lauren, you had a good question, I think, to start.
Did I have a question? I thought
I
we
think she's
answered it.
tapped out with her questions. So.
Okay.
No,
well, if you
my
are,
last
No.
question was the grammar question and the pain don't hurt
Yeah.
okay.
thing. So I think
Okay.
with that was my last question.
Okay.
All right,
Well-
I have a question. What, after everything that Doc witnessed and like the picnic basket dress and the fight and everything, at what point are they like, are we gonna have a go at this? Like,
dude, they do it. All right, let's back it up a little bit.
What makes two?
So my big issue is, I can't remember if we talked about this last year or so. How is it that the first scene with Doc, okay, granted, he's sexy and pain don't hurt and all that, but then she shows up in the picnic basket dress.
Yeah.
And sees a violent fight.
Sees a violent fight, and she just kind of looks on. She grabs onto the beam. And next thing you know, it's like their boyfriend-girlfriend. Yeah. There's no courting going on at all.
First of all, Red is her uncle. The shop is right across from the Double
Secondly,
Deuce. She's exposed to that.
She showed up at the parking lot and saw a Bigfoot park there and didn't turn around immediately and say, you know what, I'm a doctor. Well, I'm too good to be at a place where there's a Bigfoot.
Dude, if you walk away from a place that has a Bigfoot truck, you're a chicken.
That's your Chesapeake coming out.
All right, so we're back, and we just watched a couple of seductions, and Steve is going to walk us through what we just saw.
So the most important one, I think, is the breakfast seduction. And this is when Brad Wesley brings in Patrick Swayze's character Dalton to his home during breakfast to win him over.
During his breakfast.
Right, to watch him eat breakfast.
To watch him eat breakfast, which is a power move, I guess.
Yeah, didn't offer him anything.
That's not true.
He offered him a Bloody Mary.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. You've only seen it.
I think he
3 times.
His chef will whip him up a mean omelet.
All right, so set the scene. So how does he end up there? The guy, Gary and Jimmy, show up and they're like...
Well, Patrick Swayze anticipated that someone was coming for him.
That's a good point.
So he decided to very naturally lay on top of his car. On the hood of his car with his hands behind his head, just like he's relaxing at breakfast time. I'm assuming, since Brad Wesley's eating breakfast, it's 9 a.m. Why else wouldn't he just be on the hood of his car?
Maybe Dalton already had a tight brekkie.
And he's wearing like a rayon beige suit.
Yeah.
With like a beige vest underneath.
Which I think is some like kind of game theory from him, because I'm pretty certain he purchased that at JCPenney, which will be referenced here.
Oh, yeah. Well, first of all, you walk in and Barbara Mandrell, or whoever, what the girl's name is, you know.
Oh, when she's
the blonde girl?
She got her ass
She's
beat,
doing
she's
jazzercise,
like,
and she's got like a wicked shiner. So you know that he's beat her, or either her or Jimmy.
Jimmy beat her.
So do they share her? What's her deal here?
Oh, God, no. That's all Wesley. I don't think Jimmy wants any part of that.
Okay.
Jimmy's gay.
Jimmy's like her caretaker, kind of?
Some other comments that Jimmy will make later. I have a feeling that he is not interested in the Barbara Mandrell.
That is true.
Okay, I think I know what you're referencing, but...
Foreshadowing.
Foreshadowing. But people do that in prison and not elsewhere.
I'll need to ask my dog, but I'm not. There's a chance. So we're brought into Brad Wesley's house, where we see that Brad Wesley's girlfriend has been injured from her escapades earlier, where she was very provocatively dancing.
And B-Dubs is eating with gusto, by the way. Like he had been working on his core all day the day before, and he's just like, I earned this brekkie. Like the way he's eating like a hearty brekkie.
Right. And he's power sipping the Bloody Mary
with no ice. Is that
no? There's ice in it.
Oh, there is.
He just it just doesn't go down. Like he's acting like he's not actually drinking the Bloody Mary. The Bloody Mary, I think it's fuller as the scene.
It's a power prop.
Yeah, this is not the real. This is not the thing that kills a realism of Roadhouse. Of wait a minute, I was really buying into all of this until I saw that Bloody Mary. So Brad Wesley uses this as a power move. He's there ahead of time drinking his Bloody Mary. And points out some of the reasons.
Who gets fully dressed for breakfast, by the way? Not me.
Brad Wesley.
Yeah, Brad Wesley
when
does.
You're expecting company.
I
suppose.
Yeah.
You breakfast before that.
I'd be in sweatpants.
Listen, well, that doesn't mean anything. If you're the sort of guy that brings JCPenney to Jasper, you have pants on during breakfast. So,
but he also brought 7-Eleven, so that takes him down a notch. I wonder, though, if 7-Eleven...
What do y'all have against 7-Eleven? What happened? Y'all keep talking about 7-Eleven like it's a bad thing. It's brought a lot of joy to a lot of people.
It's brought a lot of big bites to people too.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
I
a
think
it's
that's
a double.
part of the joy.
Yeah, we've discussed 7-Eleven as kind of like the girlfriend that you break up with. You really shouldn't call late at night, but you do anyway. It involves a big bite and a slurping.
A big gulp. But
And a revolving rotisserie of cylindrical meats.
dude, all right. Cylindrical Meats is my new band. But hold on. I will tell you, I was in a 7-Eleven. Don't ask why. And this guy in front of me ordered like what are they called? Like not the empanadas, but it's like the Mexican things they have there.
Taquitos?
Yeah, the taquitos. Okay. And the guy goes, "Can I get, the 3 for $1 taquitos?" And the guy behind the counter was like, "I wouldn't eat those, man." He just was straight up. He's like, "They've been in there for like a week."
Oh, come on.
And the guy goes, "I don't care. Just give them to me. I want them." And he's like, "Really?" And the guy goes, "Yeah." He's like, "All right, I'll
Go
give
get
you."
some combos.
He
dude.
goes, "I'll give them to you half off." The guy took them.
Give
I'm
them away if they're that scary.
Well, but now you're wondering why we don't like 7-Eleven.
The guy gave him half off.
I don't think that's a reason to not like 7-Eleven.
I think that's a reason to like.
Because he warned him.
Yeah.
No, that's a vigilante employee. That's 7-Eleven's the one that says don't take that off until it's gotten eaten.
Yeah, because someone will. So one of the things I like about Brad Wesley's Breakfast Seduction is he has a picture of his grandfather prominently placed. So when Dalton asks who that is, Wesley tells him it's my grandfather. And Dalton replies, "He looks like an important man." To which Brad Wesley replies, "He was an asshole."
That's the
Very
80s.
matter of
That's
fact.
the 80s right
No.
there, man.
I know, but it begs the question, why have the picture there?
You know what? Yeah, like, hey, I love to eat a tight brekkie and look at my asshole grandfather. Or
He's motivated by
Uncle?
his haters.
I think Brad Wesley's really trying to extend an olive branch to Dalton and try to get him on his team.
yeah, but it's not an olive branch. It's a
Game recognized game.
sure.
Game recognized game.
That's
Yeah,
the-
I've heard that.
Sure, that's the thing.
That's 7-Eleven's slogan.
Anyway, he recognizes that he's awesome and he's Brad Wesley. He kicks ass. So he's like, "I want you on my side. I understand we've had our beef, but you know what? You're actually legit."
All right, so should we take a break and go do another segment? Or
Wait, no.
We didn't talk
about the seduction scene.
the
We
other
only talked
seduction.
about...
Oh, we talked
There's
about
2 seductions.
Okay.
Okay, I think we kick it over to Lauren now, and she can tell us about the... I said that looks horrible, and you said
We
no.
need the lady's perspective.
We need the lady's perspective of that scene. Because last year, Steve and I talked about it, and it seems like the worst sex scene of all time. Oh, that might have been you that said it was good. What?
It wasn't me that said it was good.
Yeah.
Okay, well...
Lady's perspective. No pressure.
I think Eric made watching that scene very uncomfortable for all of us this evening.
Well, yeah.
Edit that.
That could be any movie.
But no, I feel like it's a little clunky. It's a little, she seems hesitant. No one wants their back slammed up against a stone wall. But the
Speak for
next morning
yourself,
when she
sister.
wakes up,
No. But wait,
Wait till you have Serpentor hair.
he's circling her though, right? Like,
But there is potential in this that this is her way
Like,
to
it
look
got
at a different perspective. Maybe not from Patrick Swayze being the protagonist, but maybe Brad Wesley. Because at the end of it, we realize that Brad Wesley's been sitting there watching this whole thing happen.
oh, I forgot about
On
that.
his RV.
Because they are, something that's also left out of this is in this town with four businesses, one of which is called Boats. The protagonist and his enemy are separated by a terrible man-made lake
That's true.
that the victors of the movie bathe in naked.
Is that the same lake where?
Did you
Yes.
say victors of the
Foreshadow,
movie?
okay.
Yeah, where there's a throat, someone's
Spoiler
windpipe
alert.
is...
there's a dead body floating in it.
The
yeah.
ones that
Yeah.
won the
Sure.
movie.
At least one trachea.
Yeah.
is in that lake. Trachea Lake. That's wait a
Tra-
minute. That's where the
That's
Trach
another great
Lake.
band name.
Yeah, that's where the boats come in, man.
Blue Monday, it's Blue Monday. Got to work, rather sleep all day.
All right, guys, we're coming down the home stretch. We've only got 30 minutes left of Roadhouse. We left last time we talked. It was the love scenes, the seduction scenes,
Mhm.
and since then a lot has happened. We Wade Garrett has entered the equation.
Mhm.
There's been a big disaster.
There has been, but the one thing I don't know if I think we actually conclude the last segment with is we realize that Brad Wesley has watched the consummation of the love between Dalton and Doc, and that I think sets in the next scenes are all due to that. It's a reaction to that.
Yeah, to this point, Brad Wesley has not overtly been a threat. He's more...
Well, I would disagree.
He's been
with
doing
that.
power moves and stuff, but what has he actually done? I guess
He has had multiple people beaten up and assaulted.
Well, it
He
sounds,
is-
it
he
sounds
sent-
like this is the thing that really pushes him over the edge.
He takes it to another level.
Yeah, that's fair. I'll agree
He's
with that.
shown himself, but now there's a new stage of Wesley anger.
So first thing we have, though, is before all that happens is now that Dalton has a girl,
Mhm.
Brad Garrett from
Wade Garrett.
Brad Garrett from
Okay,
Leaf
what is
Garrett.
Brad Garrett from? Because I kept thinking that in my head
Is that
too. So
the
who is
brother
that?
from Everyone Loves Raymond, the older
Oh.
brother,
I wish. Can you
Wow,
imagine
that's not what I
Brad
would've thought.
Garrett instead of Wade Garrett in this movie?
dropping his pants. Hey
Raymond,
look at this.
Raymond. Wade Garrett shows up. So we get a very touching scene where Wade exposes himself and then dances with Doc.
Inappropriate dancing in any case, let alone after you've displayed your pube cleavage to someone. But by the way, I trademarked that term.
What was that?
Pube cleavage.
Shouldn't it be like cleavage or something?
You
like
make
that?
your own.
Okay.
Well,
So after that, there's then Brad Wesley starts to really emerge, and it starts with the destruction of Red's automobile parts shop. Correct?
yeah, Red's shop explodes, and it's almost as if it's like a nuclear bomb has gone off in his place. Like
Yes.
Multiple explosions.
Yeah. Well, we before this episode were circulating an article by TheRinger.com, and that has some like Roadhouse like observations, and one of which is if anything catches on fire in the town of Jasper, it'll eventually explode tremendously.
But that was like an 80s plot device.
Yeah.
It was kind of like an 18 thing of a car was going to tip over and then explode after people kind of got out and rubbed their heads. But in Jasper, things will explode if there's any sort of combustion.
But what I noticed was how the ambulance drove right past Red's shop going about 100 miles an hour.
I say drove past is a very gentle way to put it. It blazed like there was the idea of stopping at the scene wasn't an option. It was going somewhere.
It was almost like
quickly.
they were escaping whatever was happening. So once again, the law enforcement nowhere to be found.
Mm-hmm. Brief
paramedics speeding the other way.
Yep.
I did notice some firemen who jumped out when the final explosion came. So anyway, Red's shop gets blown up and everybody decides, what the hell? Let's go in and have a drink. So everybody goes into the Roadhouse or to the Double Deuce. And then inexplicably,
a very well-dressed Brad Wesley is there.
He's there in his pet, if you will, whatever her name is, starts doing a dance, which, I mean, again, Red's shop just got blown up, but Dalton's got bigger fish to fry. He's got to get the girl off from dancing. I feel like we need a Roadhouse prequel. But you know what, though? Without Swayze, who would be worthy?
I think they need to do a remake, which is either from Brad Wesley's perspective or a prequel, like the rise of Brad Wesley. Like it ends with the JC when he like closes the deal with JC Penney.
That's the triumphant ending.
And like they celebrate with Slurpees.
All right, so let's.
That needs to be the finish that is clipped on.
That could be.
Sounds like we're gonna make a movie.
It sounds like Scott has like about 4 days. You're gonna have to pretend
I'm
you
gonna
have
have
the
to
flu.
take multiple days off of work for this.
It's a labor of love.
Wouldn't be the first time. Yeah. All right, so guys, we're wrapping up. We're coming into the home stretch.
We're gonna close strong after this. I'm gonna pass a baton lyrically, as I know our friend Grace is gonna come in and bring. She's going to bring the fire. It's going to close strong. Yeah. I'm looking forward to hearing this.
So I have to admit, and I told Steve already knows this, but I said I was going to mention this earlier. I think our Roadhouse episode is our least listened to episode of all, which, in fairness, It's has nothing to do with what the podcast is about.
And it comes out on Thanksgiving.
It comes out on Thanksgiving and nobody listens.
Maybe this spawns a new genre of podcast where you review film.
No one has thought about doing a podcast about movies.
But I figured this year, let's just go big and double down, just like Dalton would do, double deuce style. Yeah. We could either just give up on it or say, no, Roadhouse is the movie of Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
We declare it.
Yeah.
It may seem silly now, but in
the future, our children will look back and go, thank you, Dad.
Yeah. It is a good Thanksgiving movie, I think, because, well, actually, I'm not sure why.
No, it's a great Thanksgiving movie. Because it's one of the best movies ever, and it gives you a lot of stuff to be thankful for. And
it's a movie that you should watch like once a year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you know how back in the day, Wizard of Oz would come on once a year?
Yeah.
Roadhouse is a once a year movie.
Yeah.
Lauren, let me just ask you, how are you doing? You've been with us here for the last 3 hours as we watch and discuss Roadhouse. This is your first podcast experience with us. You hanging in there?
I have had so much fun.
Right. She really can't say anything else, but thank you for saying that.
She's trapped.
She didn't have that hostage video look when she said that of, I am being taken care of. I am very happy right now.
Yeah.
No, I've had a great time, and I'm so glad to have my Roadhouse questions answered.
At this point, my good friend Grace joins us with her boyfriend Andrew, and things get a little weird. So I hope you enjoy the last section of the Roadhouse podcast coming your way right now.
Oh, Scott and I were talking earlier about
it's very Shakespearean.
About how, there's a very thin line that separates something from being like really, really artistically potent and something,
that's jokingly garbage.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
One word, dialogue or writing.
I mean, the storyline is classic.
I mean, you could easily retell the story from Brad Wesley's perspective, like of,
that's what Steve was saying.
Some new guy comes to town. There's some new business that threatens your.
Everything was fine till Dalton came to town.
So basically, you're a businessman. You brought 7-Eleven and J.C. Penney to town, and then all of a sudden this guy comes. But
he just wants 10%, man.
I mean, there's also like kind of like a technology kind of like review of this movie where Dalton is a disruptive technology to the Brad Wesley empire. He feels threatened. He sees Dalton like have sex with his lady that he wants
across the lake,
in plain view of him. Like he feels existentially threatened. He burns down Red's store.
But she was never really his.
Yeah. She definitely was never even interested.
That's a good point. Hold on. Before we go any further, let me just say who we have on the podcast now. We're wrapping up this session of Roadhouse, the official movie of Thanksgiving.
What?
Yeah, you didn't know that?
Yeah.
That's what we're doing. So this is our Thanksgiving episode.
I thought Ghost Dad was the
Ghost Dad with Bill Cosby. So Steve had to go home and go to bed. Lauren has taken off, and now we have our good friend Grace DuPont and Andrew
Bentley.
Andrew Bentley.
That's Andrew Bentley.
Hell yeah, that's a good name. AB.
And he's wearing a tight Baja.
And we just watched the last 30 minutes of Roadhouse. So, Grace, Roadhouse. Well, before we go any further, why don't you tell us a little bit about your history with Roadhouse? Did I introduce you to Roadhouse?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure.
Scott introduced me to Roadhouse. I came over here one night and he was like, have you ever seen this movie? And I was like, nope. And he was like, do you want to watch it? And I was like, sure.
I'm like, they were making, first of all, just let me say this. So earlier, Lauren was talking about pain don't hurt. And why does he say it that way if he's, went to NYU with a philosophy degree?
And they talk about that in the same scene.
In the same scene. And she didn't know I have a tattoo that says pain don't hurt.
Are you really?
Awesome. Yeah, you guys.
Didn't I tell you?
No,
Let's see it. Let's see it, Scott. Let's see it.
You are the Roadhouse fan.
But let me tell you,
I'll
pull
your pants down and
no, I'll pull my pants up because it's on my. It's like on the back of my leg. But when I went to get it, it was the first tattoo I ever got. And the guy that went to do it, he goes, before I do this, he goes, I just want to make sure you wanted to say pain don't hurt, not pain doesn't hurt. I was like, no, I want to say pain don't hurt. Like, I know you don't get the reference, but
You're like, just Just do the ink, Gary.
Nobody else knows. Every once in a while, somebody will know what it means. So, Andrew, what's your history with Roadhouse? I know that she didn't introduce you to Roadhouse. You've known of Roadhouse.
I saw Roadhouse in college.
Okay.
And I was just floored. It was amazing. And my roommate in college was like total movie buff. Shout out Sam Andrews. But like, and he introduced me like a ton of movies that I would have never watched, and Roadhouse was one of them. And we watched it twice. We just had to watch it twice back.
Yeah, you can't.
That's so good though.
We talked about this earlier. Did you bring some for the rest of us, Micah?
Yeah, I got a little ice here.
Okay, here.
You have a glass?
I don't need
No, this is for
pour yourself
for
a
Grace.
little. Yeah.
I love it.
Roadhouse is not a movie that you can just watch once.
Got some bullet right here too, if you want.
Oh, I'm good.
Okay.
I'm gonna stick with larceny. Fry's not my favorite.
This
But
bullet
I do
bourbon
like
in a
fry.
ball mason jar.
Bullet
It's not very
rye.
much in
Oh,
there,
okay.
but-
Did you
Good.
taste
Even
that?
better.
Yeah.
Did you taste that honey I brought?
No, not yet.
Take some of that honey that I
Okay.
brought.
Yeah.
It's local honey.
All right, guys, we got to pull it together,
Sorry.
and then we're gonna just go in there and do whatever we want.
Poor Scott's gonna have
See,
to edit this.
no, I know, but like it's
No, I meant to talk about the art of Roadhouse because it's like it's so far out there, and then it has so many core concepts that are core themes that are like
universal themes.
yeah.
So
Things that aren't going anywhere for a while.
Well, yeah.
I mean, it's basically Shakespeare
Struggle
with
for
bad
power.
dialogue, and
there's like a Julius Caesar moment at the end.
I know you saw that too, right?
Yeah.
So that was clearly a Julius
Except
Caesar.
everyone was against Brad Wesley from the beginning.
Well,
no,
he did good things for the town.
he did. The town was
But did
behind
he?
him.
Were they?
He brought in J.C. Penney.
He had his like.
Ask
Mart,
anyone. The
But-
photo mart.
At the end of the day, he was still the bad guy.
Yeah.
He still ends up being the bad guy.
He
and
I
became
think he was the bad guy from
Don't
the
make
beginning.
Mr.
he
Barfield be the
becomes
bad
the
guy.
bad guy.
I think he was a
but-
bad guy from the second that he flew in on the helicopter and tried to piss off those
But he
horses.
was. I mean,
maybe he's
he was just a rich
yeah.
guy, and people didn't like him because he was a rich guy, and he was a bad guy. But people didn't know he was a bad guy until he started killing.
You're
people.
speaking some truth right now to power. Yes,
and
I agree.
Like how cool would it be to be the guy that has the swimming pool?
Exactly.
That all of the hot '80s topless ladies like.
Yeah.
go
And
jump in
those
the pool.
pants that Steve likes to wear.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you
but
know,
if he was a
panties.
solid dude, he wouldn't go around extorting money from like local
Is
business.
it
I'm not saying
extortion,
it's-
or is he just wetting his beak like?
10%'s a little rich for me. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
but let's back it up. Let's keep in mind the fact that he grew up just like Dalton on the mean streets of Chicago.
Whatever.
He said that. Yeah, he did. He grew up tough. He grew up in the tough
He
streets.
did discuss that over breakfast. You're right.
He did, and he made his bones the hard way. He didn't have to come to Jasper, but that's where he chose. He
Jasper
brought in
came
a
to him.
7-Eleven, boat,
The photo mark.
the Photo Mart,
JC Penney's
and
coming here
J.C.
because of
Penney
him.
because of him. Ask anyone.
Ask anyone.
So he's done a lot of work. Then in comes Dalton, all highfalutin,
He's
and
just a bouncer at
But
a
he's
bar,
yeah,
though.
he's not highfalutin.
He's
I
a
mean,
disruptive
He
technology.
makes,
No,
he
he's
makes
not.
money
He wasn't
because
doing
he does
anything.
what he does, and he's good at it.
He
It
was
doesn't-
minding
No,
his
but
own
he-
business.
no, time out. But in a way, there's this economy at the bar where you got John Doe
Where
who's
did they
skimming a
clash?
little bit. He's
Oh,
taking
it
what's
started
his.
with his cousin.
Yeah, a lot of these guys. This is how they make their living. Do you think they can make their living at making minimum wage $2.25 or whatever?
If Brad
hell it
Wesley
was?
is your
Well,
uncle,
that's
then you don't need to be
tips,
working
man.
at a
That's
bar.
Like, that's the difference.
But that's
you
that's
can't-
all he's got. It's his sister's
Only
son.
sister's son.
This
yeah.
is right. If he doesn't have me, if he doesn't have Wesley, who else has he got? He says this
Yeah, but
explicitly.
then he should go work for Wesley, not at a bar where Dalton's in charge. It's
Well, at the end of the day,
with
like,
the wrong guy, and guess what? Guess who ends up with like 5 shotgun shells to like the torso? Brad Wesley.
Brad Wesley. Okay, so that brings us back to the Julius Caesar.
It's
moment.
about the movie's about healthy boundaries.
Is that what it's about?
It's about the restaurant industry as a whole.
Yeah.
How servers get paid too little, and
That's the real
maybe or
underlying.
maybe not make
That's
money.
the real underlying thing.
It's
there.
really about the struggles of restaurant management.
I agree.
It's not really
But
about the overall health of the town.
I do think maybe your boundaries critique is interesting because at one point, Dalton's ready to like cut it and run with Wade Garrett,
Oh yeah.
and like
He finally drew his line, but it's too
He's
late.
like, okay, I've had enough. Like,
Yeah,
I
and then
might
the
be-
explosion happened. right?
Yeah.
Well, Wade Garrett showed up dead.
So
Yeah,
the movie ends in a
Flipper.
Julius Caesar style where Brad Wesley gets taken out by everyone in the town. It's some catharsis there. I think you could say
all the
it's a
business
Greek
leaders.
tragedy.
All the business leaders, if you think about it.
Yeah, that's the Senate
The-
of the community.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, there's everybody
The
comes
owner
in.
of the hardware store, the owner of the dealership, the owner of the Double Deuce, all shoot him.
Who's the fat guy? Brutus.
The barber.
Because he was on.
Wait, the
he
fat
was on
guy that
his
gets
sign.
crushed
Polar
by
bear
the
follow
polar
me.
bear?
Yeah, but you think about it, he was the A2 Brute at the end, although he was
No,
already dead.
He didn't, yeah. I
But
would say, like, he
It's like
he definitely, like,
A2D2.
didn't say anything, though.
You guys watch Tool Academy on VH1?
No.
Best show ever.
I feel like Tool Academy is great art.
Are you It's not.
I'm
yeah,
sorry.
It is.
What is it?
is that
Tell
the
me-
one that
tell
has
me about it.
12-pack on it?
I'll let Micah explain Tool Academy because
Yeah,
it's so
Use
good.
your-
it's a
use your
beautiful-
words.
It's beautiful.
It's a
So-
bunch of like
So
Italian.
here's the premise. A bunch of women have bad boyfriends.
Okay.
So the whole objective is to make their boyfriends less of tools. Make them into
That sounds terrible.
make them into like nice people.
And how do they do
How,
this?
So
yeah,
their
their parents? What?
So they
Don't have parents.
they convince their tool boyfriends that they're competing in a competition for
Mr.
Mr.
Awesome.
Awesome. Yeah.
Oh, no.
These are like top
Yeah.
level dudes.
So they
right?
put them in a
So-
tool
so-
contest.
Invite them to this house, and then they like have them like, strut down a catwalk and like show off their stuff, and they think that they're competing in this competition for Mr. Awesome. And then at the end of the first episode, there's the big reveal that in fact
Well, they get them to admit all the cheating that they've been doing.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
no.
they- and
what
they-
the f- is
because they think
happening?
that's
They
like
think that's cool.
right.
I'm
Yeah.
uncomfortable
and
already.
they get these
What is
guys
this,
to
like,
get
next?
their hair done by like really hot makeup girls, and like get the makeup girls to flirt with the guys, and then the guys are like, oh yeah, well here's my number because like my girlfriend's we're not really
Yeah.
serious.
So like at the peak of like their
No.
So at the peak of their douchiness, there's kind of a giant reveal that they are in fact not in a Mr. Awesome competition.
they're in
and
like
that-
a boyfriend reformation.
Yeah, they're in a rehab facility to make them less of a tool.
But
And then-
like,
and then
it
they're
goes to, like-
clearly not making them.
And then it goes to like
No.
classic like what's it what
No,
what's
it's
it called?
pretty amazing because they get these guys in like group therapy sessions, and like some of the reveals that they have
Oh, are hardcore.
are just super heavy, and like you got these guys that are like have muscles and tats and like gelled hair and like talking about
but
But they're
their
still
hearts
people.
Still
Yeah, just
beating
talking-
hot,
talking about-
warm blood.
just talking about being super insecure and
Like warm dude blood, yeah.
Yeah,
Warm dude blood.
it's super heavy.
All right, so wrapping this up because I would just like to say how much I've enjoyed having this conversation tonight. Roadhouse, great movie, the movie
yeah.
of Thanksgiving.
Oh, absolutely.
Cheers
Roadhouse.
and good night.
Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Good night.
And there you have it. That's our Roadhouse / Tool Academy / 7-Eleven Boats Roadhouse episode. And if you made it this far, God bless you. Thank you for listening. Tune in next week for a normal episode. And remember that Roadhouse is the official movie of Thanksgiving. Enjoy your holiday.